Hello everybody! I want to show you the process through which I create my infinite zoom art. So I make these psychedelic, immersive journeys that are meant to create a dreamlike state of trance in the audience. And this is a great use case for generative AI because of the way it's designed. It's based on neural networks, which closely mimics the way our brains work when they create a picture of reality from external stimuli. And it's often been compared to dreaming or hallucinating, which makes it perfect for psychedelic art. So my process is a collaboration between my human creativity and silicon dreams, if you will. So here we are in Midjourney, and this is where it all starts. Well, that's not quite true. There's this misconception with AI art that the computer just does everything for you, right? Not true, not true. People have been saying that about emerging technologies for years, decades, centuries. AI in its current form is a tool. It's a paintbrush, a very powerful paintbrush, but by its very nature, it's incapable of creating anything truly original, truly meaningful. It can only copy what it's been trained on. And so in order to create something we would call art, AI needs a human voice, a vision, if you will, art direction. And this is where I come in, and maybe this is where you come in. So it all starts up here with an idea. And my idea for this round is I want to create a journey through a surreal psychedelic carnival. And the first thing I do is I look for reference pictures. So I've uploaded this picture, which I did not create, and I'm going to provide that to Midjourney as a style guide. So Midjourney is going to look at the colors, the shapes, the general art style of this picture. It's not going to copy anything directly from this picture, but it's going to create an image in the style of this reference picture. So let's start prompting. And I want to start with a POV from a roller coaster in this carnival. We're not going to be on a roller coaster throughout the entire journey. But that's also kind of the fun of these infinite zoom experiences, that the landscape constantly changes. That's what makes it so trippy. But at least for the first image, I want to start on a roller coaster. So POV from a roller coaster, surreal, psychedelic carnival. Aspect ratio 16:9, and I'm gonna give it that image I just uploaded. And here's our first round of generated images. Let's take a look. I don't love any of them yet, so I'm just gonna hit refresh, which will generate another set of 4 variations. And there they are. So I really want to look at the entrance of a carnival, like a big wacky face or something, as you can see in this reference image. So I'm not getting that yet. So what I'm going to try is I'm going to tell Midjourney to prioritize the reference image with a factor of 1,000 here, which is as high as it gets. So it's going to try and stick closely to that reference. Yeah, that's a little better. Pretty cool. But the face is kind of off to the side, and I want a great sense of perspective, sort of looking down a single lane at a face. So let's just try and regenerate. Okay. The bottom right is pretty cool, but I'm missing the roller coaster. I'm gonna try something a little bit different, and will vary my prompt. So looking at the entrance of a surreal psychedelic carnival, POV from a roller coaster. Prompting is a bit of an art form. Small changes in the input can give you wildly different results in the image. Okay, a number of attempts later, and I think we have something that will work. I actually had to revert back to the original prompt because the style weight of 1,000 was causing the roller coaster to disappear. So I really like the top left and top right. They're very immersive. They have great drama and perspective. Now, obviously, the top right doesn't have that wacky face I'm after. The top left has it. It's not in the center, but it's featured quite nicely. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select those two and run a variation on each of them, where Midjourney will keep the basic nature of these images, the perspective, the framing, all of that, but change the details. And I think that way we should be inching closer to our first image. So I do love where this is going, but it looks like we've lost the roller coaster again in this here. The one without the face, I still like them all. There's a lot going on. It's very dynamic. I'm gonna redo both of these steps. Let's see if the variation with the faces will get the roller coaster back, because then I think I will prefer that over the other one. If not, we're gonna take one of these here. All right, we are not getting the roller coaster back, so maybe we'll come back to this idea in the middle of the journey. Let's take a look at these. I feel like there are better ones that we generated earlier. Let's see, maybe even the original. I like this one, but there's a bit of weird distortion and kind of motion blur baked in here. So I think I'm gonna continue to regenerate this variation until I see something that just really speaks to me. And here we are. I think this one's pretty cool. It doesn't have that wacky face, but like I said, we'll come back to that idea. It has a great dynamic flow though, great lighting, great drama. It does look a little distorted and grainy in the details, but I think it's not too bad. So we're gonna save this and move on. And now we're getting to the meat of this process. We're gonna be zooming out. And this function here essentially scales the image down to 50% its size, and then it in-paints the edges. So it sort of makes up things that are outside the frame currently. And there's two ways of doing this. You can either zoom out with the same prompt, or you can do a custom zoom and adjust the prompt, and Midjourney will try its best to add the things you're prompting outside the current frame. For now, I'm just going to do a straight up zoom and let the AI do its job until I feel inspired to direct it. Okay. Let's try that again a couple times. This is cool. Very Halloween themed. Okay. It's a different vibe, but it's cool as well. I do like the pumpkins, but what I don't like is that it's lost the rails and put a concrete path in there instead. We might come back to this. Let's just keep going and regenerate a couple more times. As you can see, every generation is pretty different, and this is where that collaboration between human and machine comes in, where sometimes you just gotta let the AI dream. Okay, same pumpkin theme here in the top right. I do like that. I am not a fan of the ones where there aren't any interesting features and it's just, more of the same. Not a huge fan of this pumpkin. Okay, so I think the top right here is a good candidate. But let me go back to the previous one with the pumpkins. Let's single that one out. And I'm gonna try and vary the region that is currently concrete floor, because we don't want that. We want more track. So let's see. All right, I'm gonna leave the prompt alone and just see if it manages to patch it with roller coaster. Yeah, and that worked. Beautiful. Let's go with the top left. Okay, image 2 in the can. Save it. I'm gonna zoom out again, but this time I'm slightly gonna change the prompt and bring that style weight back in. I just want to see what happens if I tell Midjourney to very closely stick to the original reference image in this third image in the series. This might completely break, but let's see. Okay, it didn't break, but it also didn't produce anything all that interesting. So I'm gonna try and go the other way and remove the reference image from the prompt. So I'm giving Midjourney a lot more creative freedom to do whatever it wants to with the image. Let's see. Okay, and that's definitely gone off the rails, no pun intended. That's a little bit too October themed. So let's go back. And what I'm gonna do is huge roller coaster. That's the only prompt I'm gonna give it. And the hope is that it's gonna fill the sky with more of these cool, epic, huge loops. Let's see. All right, so there's a couple I like here. The top left and the bottom right. In this context, she look pretty good. So let's take a look full screen. I really like the flying airship. That's cool. Let's go with this one. Image 3. Saved. Let's see if Midjourney can give us a castle in the sky. And I'm not loving how the sky is developing here, so I'm gonna ask Midjourney to add a lightning storm. Floating sky castle. Lightning storm. Okay, cool. The lightning storm looks really cool. Midjourney couldn't quite fit a floating castle in there, and that happens. It happens a lot actually with the Zoom prompts. That Midjourney is going to try its best to accommodate what you want to do, but when it just doesn't see the patterns to make that work, it's just going to go, well, tough. Let's try that again. I'm going to once again remove the reference image. Floating sky. Maybe try something different. Floating castle in the sky. Lightning storm. Slightly different prompt, and it's not a slave to that original style anymore. So let's see what happens. All right, still no castle. That's fine. I really like what's happening in the top right here. It's just great framing in the top half of the frame. I think something needs to start happening in the bottom half soon. Otherwise, it's just going to be very boring down here. But let's run with this. Let's run with this. So, save it. Okay, I'm gonna try and prompt something to make Midjourney lose the floor. So, flying through a floating surreal carnival. I will leave the reference image out again. And in fact, I'm gonna tell Midjourney to stylize the image a lot more than it has been doing with this parameter here. See what happens. I mean, that's just insane. I kind of love what it's doing at the top. We're losing the carnival. We can get that back though. I do not like what's happening in the bottom half here. Makes the image very unbalanced and frankly just boring. So what I'm gonna do is pick the top right image, sorry, bottom right image, and I'm gonna vary the bottom quarter or so. Now I have to be careful that I don't eat too far into it, because I want to leave the original image intact. So where does that cut off? It's hard to tell. It's like a little orange bit here. I think it's like here. So I'm gonna just prompt colorful distant clouds. Would help if I could spell. Thank you. Okay, can't make that work. But what it has done in the top right here is it's added a little bit of lighting, and if we can extrapolate that in the next image, the image will be a lot more balanced. So maybe that's an approach. Let's go with the top right and save that. And I'm gonna put the style reference back in and change the prompt to whatever it was before, flying through a surreal carnival. Yeah, okay, that's still good. I'm saying flying because I really want Midjourney to leave the rails and kind of be floating in midair as if we had a carnival in the clouds. But it's really struggling to do that. It keeps expanding the ground. And it makes sense, ground doesn't usually just stop. I don't like how we're leaving the carnival theme behind so much in 3 out of 4 images here. So let me adjust the prompt. I'm going to take the stylization out again. And let's say flying towards a floating rock. A carnival on a floating rock. Let's see if that works. It does not. No, it doesn't. Okay, we need to get Midjourney to abandon these rails. So let's try this. End of the train line in the sky. And while that's generating, I'm going to try something different. As you can see, I took the reference image out again because that reference image has the ground plane, and we don't want that. Rails ending on cliff edge. Well, through the magic of editing, it is now about an hour later. Midjourney really got stuck here. I had to try so many things to get rid of that boring bottom half of the screen. And what I ended up doing is I took the reference image here into Photoshop and I removed the ground and replaced it with sky. And then I just kept prompting and prompting until I finally got this, which had the prompt: a psychedelic carnival on a floating rock. We are floating over the edge of the rock. Below us are clouds. And that then allowed me to zoom out further and get this image. And that's where we're at right now. So we managed to get the rails to end, and we're now sort of in the clouds. But I also brought the carnival back because that's the running theme throughout this journey, and it provides a lot of the visual details and the lights, right? So yeah, that was a tough one. But it does prove my point at the beginning that this process requires a lot of art direction. Takes a lot of time, and frankly money as well, because each of these generations costs a little bit of money. But we don't care about that. It's fun. Sort of. Okay. let's see if we can get the carnival back in full force from here. A psychedelic carnival floating in the sky. Pretty good. Pretty good. Let's do a couple more. So these are all good, but we're getting into this territory again where we have a lot of just negative space. At the top it's very dark and bottom is very dark. So let's see if we can get a few colors in there. I'm gonna try colorful clouds. Colorful dramatic clouds. And I'm also gonna go back to the idea of a lightning storm. Lightning storm. That could be another nice through line, adding drama to this journey. Okay, so the colorful clouds didn't quite work out. I do like all these rides and stands on the left and right, so that's good visual detail, but bottom right is pretty cool at the bottom of frame, but the sky is just way too boring. And the lightning storm, similar situation. I don't like that it's only added lightning on the left and right. I'd like some at the top as well. Again, the bottom right image is probably the best just because of the detail in the bottom half. Let's regenerate both of these, even though colorful clouds are probably not going to happen. Nice, nice composition, and it seems to have put water in there. Interesting. And that's what I love about these journeys. They take you through these different environments and surprise you constantly. Let's go with this one. And for the next one, I am going to simplify the prompt and take the reference image out. So I'm just going to let Midjourney get creative here. Well, okay, as usual, that didn't quite work, so I had to adjust my prompt a little bit, but I got this, which I think is really cool. I really like the bottom right here. So let's take a look at that full screen. Beautiful. Let's just keep going. Zoom straight out from here. I don't think I've mentioned this yet, but every one of my videos consists of a set of 20 source images. You know, if you do this process, you can do 5, you can do 100. It's really up to you. I do 20. And I do like what I'm seeing here. I really want a Ferris wheel to be a part of this. However, the overall style is becoming quite different than what we started with. So I'm going to try and put the original style reference back in and see if we can still get big rides like a Ferris wheel with that. Okay, yeah, so now we're bringing it back to that original surreal style. And that's kind of the push and pull you play in this process, is you let Midjourney stray off the path and then you bring it back to make sure there's visual consistency and consistency in the storytelling as well. So let's pick let's pick the top left here. It's nice and wacky, and I feel like we've gone quite dark, so it's probably a good idea to bring a bit of lightheartedness into the middle of the journey here. I think we're on image 10 now. All right, let's see if we can get a Ferris wheel in there. And what do you know? We can. My problem is that the images with a Ferris wheel here are otherwise quite bland. I really like the top left because of its colors and detail, but that one doesn't have a Ferris wheel. So let's try again. Well, and this is interesting. I really like the top left here. It's just a cool transformation with the sort of 60s Miami cars and palm trees. I like when that happens. It doesn't have a prominent wheel in it, but that's okay. We can get that in the next step. So let's pick this one and apply the exact same prompt. Well, that's cool. Has a bit of a Vegas vibe. Took me about 20 tries to get here, but I think we can run with this. But again, we're straying quite far from the original psychedelic surreal carnival, so let's bring it back, and we're going to tell Midjourney to really prioritize that reference image. We're 12 images in now, we have 8 to go, so we slowly need to start thinking about how we want to wrap things up and bookend this journey. Oh, this one's just delightful. Let's go with that. Top left. Again, bringing a little bit of happiness into this otherwise very dramatic journey. And in the next generation, I want to see a bunch of crazy clown faces. Carnival rides and crazy clown faces. Let's take that off, but keep the reference in there. Okay, I had to slightly adjust my prompt, but here we are. This one's pretty cool. And now I kind of want to start reverse engineering our journey. So I want to get back on a roller coaster, if possible, bring back a lightning storm and colorful psychedelic clouds, and then end just in a carnival. No water and nothing too crazy, just rides and faces. So, POV of a roller coaster, surreal psychedelic carnival, lightning storm, and we still have the reference image in there because we don't want to start a whole new style now that we're trying to wrap up here. Okay, the lightning storm's looking good. It's struggling with the roller coaster. So I'm gonna regenerate, but I'm also gonna slightly change the prompt. And small things like this can make a big difference. Roller coaster POV. We'll see. So I had to generate quite a few here, and Midjourney is just always struggling to add the roller coaster in the foreground. But there is one generation here, top left, that I think has potential. You see it's adding these rails, and I think it can morph that into a roller coaster in the next generation. And the rest of the image looks really cool as well. So let's save that and move on. As you can see, it's trying to add cars a lot, and even a tram here, which makes sense because the rails kind of look more like public transport and less like a roller coaster. There is one image I was able to generate here, bottom left, that I think has some promise of turning into something. So we may not quite be on a roller coaster, but we're on rails, we're on some kind of ride. It does the trick. So now let's try and morph the lightning storm into the colorful clouds we had at the beginning. Okay, we didn't get the colorful clouds, but we got a bunch of wacky characters. And they're not very well integrated, so that kind of style jump is a bit obvious here. But I think the top right here is kind of cool. Let's go with that, and let's see if we can get clouds in the next iteration. Clouds may not happen, and that's okay. It's a minor part of the story. I could really force them in, but I'm not that precious about them. So I think I'm gonna pick this guy here. It's because it has some awesome lighting and lightning at the top. Okay, we're 2 images away from 20, so now I'm telling Midjourney to, again, use the reference image and with a style weight of 1000 to make sure that we end up in the same style that we began with. So we're getting a lot of cool, wacky faces here, but nothing all that striking in terms of composition, and I want to make sure that we end on a really strong image, because actually what I'm doing in the video is I'm playing the sequence backwards. I'm zooming in, so these last 3 images are going to be the first images that the audience gets to see. So I'm looking for a nice balanced composition and a really strong, memorable image, and these are all good, but nothing's quite ticked all those boxes yet. What Well, I think the top right here almost hits the spot. I really like this character on the left. I don't like a bunch of other things about this, so I think that the sky is a little bit bland, and on the right side we could try and add something a little bit more interesting. So let's vary those regions. Gotta be careful not to go too far into the image and change the original. And I think the bottom left here is pretty cool. It's nice and balanced. It has two similar characters, left and right. Maybe the only thing I don't like is, again, how dark the bottom half of the image goes. So let's try and get a little bit more detail going there. Okay, I'm a few generations in here, and I didn't quite get what I wanted, but the top left here has a little bit of a reflection, so it's not just black in the bottom half of the image. So let's pick that as our penultimate image. And for the last time, we're going to zoom out, not going to prompt anything specific. Let's just see what we get. And I think this image is a great start to our journey with these symmetrical arches leading the eye into the frame. And there you go. We now have 20 images that we can turn into an infinite zoom sequence. Definitely wasn't easy generating these, but I think we came up with something that really invites the viewer on a journey here. Very cool stuff. So the next step in my process is to use AI upraising to generate 6K or close to 6K images. And I use Gigapixel AI by Topaz for that. So let's run the batch. And here you have beautiful full res images full of color and detail ready to be processed. Next, I run a Python script I wrote that sorts the images by date, assuming they've been created chronologically, which they have been, and renames the source files alphanumerically in order. And that's an important step for the next part of this process. The next step being to stitch these 20 images together into a seamless sequence. Now, there's a myriad of ways to do this. Most involve some kind of video editing software or VFX software like After Effects. That comes with a particular set of challenges, like blending the edges properly and making sure that the zoom effect is smooth and seamless. Luckily, there is a Python script that's available online. It's called infinite_zoom.py. You can find it on GitHub. It was written by Ingo Berg, or you can find him under Belt of Orion as well. Really, really nice script. And it does everything for us. So all I have to do here is run this script on my folder, and it will start to seamlessly stitch these images together and generate an image sequence. So let's speed through this process. And this is the result, a long sequence of images that make up an infinite zoom. So let's take this into After Effects and put some finishing touches on it. So here's a zoom in action. That's just the raw frames, and I want to quickly walk you through the template I built in After Effects to apply all kinds of psychedelic visual effects. So let's hop over into my main comp and take it bottom to top. So I bring in the sequence 3 times, split out into RG and B, and the idea is that those channels are being scaled at different levels, and you end up getting a little bit of chromatic aberration. The next notable effect here is this colorama preset. This effect cycles through color hues and creates this really trippy color effect. So I can show you what it does by going into the video I pre-rendered here. And if you just look at the sky here, for instance, See how it goes from dark blue to electric green, and it seems to be following a sort of three-dimensionality as well, which is just the way these gradients work. Here's another cool example of this effect as we go into the colorful clouds. The lightning storm really seems to be alive here. Right, next up, a vector blur, and this is adding a sort of fractally distortion mostly around the edges. So if I toggle it on and off, look in the top right, I can just briefly take the mask off to make it very clear what it's doing. It's this really cool sort of water caustics type distortion. And again, you can really see it at work here in the final video. Look in the top left here. All of this kind of spider webbing effect is the vector blur. Next up, some wobbly displacement through a noise map. The noise map is here. It's just generic fractal noise. And that kind of distortion is sort of swimming across the image and contributing to this feeling of an altered state of mind. The next effect, called depth displacement here, is another type of distortion, but this one's really cool. So I'm using another AI tool here to generate a depth map for every frame of the video. I then apply a big blur to that depth map, and I also time smooth it so that there's no flickering between frames. And I apply the map as a displacement. So while it's not super accurate, and it definitely comes with some glitches, it generally gives a sense of depth. And it's just another tool to help draw the viewer into the world. Then we have a final grade, some glow, a transform, which kind of wobbles the image left and right over time to give it a little bit more of a dynamic feel. Even more chromatic aberration. Yeah, you can see it nicely here in the corner. And finally, a lens distortion. And this is just a big old barrel distortion to, again, help suck the audience into this tunnel vision. Then we have some film grain here to take off the sort of clean digital edge, and another final grade that just gets a little bit more saturation back that we lost in the process. When all of these effects are dialed in, I then render the video and do some final checks. And what I'm noticing on this one is that what I've been flagging earlier has very much come true, where you have large parts of the image that are just black. And so that makes for a really unbalanced image. So we have that here at the start, and we have that here in the middle. It's just pitch black. So I'm going to do a couple of grading tweaks, probably just lifting the low end. Let's see what that does. Something like this, just to get a little bit more detail into these shadow areas and get a better overall balance. Once I'm happy with that, I then go and generate or compose music that fits the theme. But this tutorial is already way too long, so we're just going to skip over the music part. Let me know if you want to learn more about that in the future. And I then apply final processing, making sure the video loops, outputting a sort of 5-minute 4K version for YouTube, a vertical version for social, and I also upload all my source material, the 20 source pictures, and the final high-quality videos on Gumroad. So if you're a fan of any of my videos, you can get the source images, the full quality videos, and full commercial rights for your projects for a small fee over there. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is the process through which I make my infinite zoom art. It's by far not the only way, but it's my way. I hope it was interesting to you. I hope you learned something, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.